Hey guys, and welcome back to another interview this week. Well, technically we've got two special guests, but one of them's just going to be helping out. Is Miriam joining alongside Buzz, who I'm sure you know incredibly well. Buzz, how you doing at the moment? You've had a bit of time in the off season. I'm sure you've been getting ready for everything coming up.
안녕하세요, 버즈 선수. 지금 오프 시즌 동안 어떻게 시간을 보내셨나요?
일단 쉬면서 에너지 충전도 좀 했고 어 그래도 오프 시즌 동안 여러 가지 대회도 있었었는데 그것도 좀 준비하면서 일단은 VCT 2024 앞두고 조금 열심히 준비하고 있습니다.
Or during the off season, I've just been energizing myself. I've been taking long breaks. We played a lot of off seasons, and now we're just getting prepared for the VCT 2024.
Sounds good. Well, I wanna sort of take a little bit of a look back and sort of I guess see like how you got to where you are at the moment, because I feel like you're someone who was almost straight into Valorant. So the sort of first thing I want to ask is, you started at 17 playing Valorant. Was there anything else that you played before you were playing Valorant, maybe competitively or even just for fun?
버즈 선수는 이제 17살이라는 어린 나이에 발로란트 프로가 되셨는데, 혹시 발로란트 전에 다른 게임을 하셨는지, 그리고 어떻게 발로란트에 발을 담그게 되셨는지 설명 부탁드립니다.
일단은 뭔가 전문적으로 프로를 해야겠다 하면서 했던 게임은 없었던 것 같고, 그냥 발로란트 같은 FPS 게임 종류들을 취미로 많이 했었었고, 그러고 공부하러 고등학교로 갔었다가 이제 코로나 팬데믹이 터지면서 이제 그때 같이 발로란트가 출시가 됐었는데, 그때 하다 보니까 좀 재밌었고 좀 내 마음속에 프로게이머라는 직업을 해보고 싶다라는 생각도 있어가지고 어, 어느 정도 재능이 있다고 판단해서 도전하게 됐던 것 같아요.
So back when I was 17, I didn't have any intention of going pro. I just enjoyed playing a lot of FPS games like this and that. I was a normal high school student studying, and then during the COVID pandemic, Riot Games released Valorant, and I
Mm.
tried it out with my friends, and I could see that I had a little bit of a talent for it. So I wanted to go pro on it for the first time, and then I just tried really hard after.
Okay, well that was sort of leads into my next question, because from looking back at like VLR and stuff like that, you played 4 games and then you joined Cloud9 Korea, which for me seems like a huge just jump from playing with your mates to playing with Cloud9. How did that whole move come about?
이제 VLR의 히스토리를 보면은 버즈 선수는 공식 매치 4경기만 하고 갑자기 클라우드9 코리아라는 대규모 팀에 합류하게 되었습니다. 이 순간을 좀 설명해 주실 수 있을까요? 어떻게 C9에 조인하게 됐는지?
일단은 그 전에 네 매치를 했을 때 그때 매드라는 팀에서 소속해서 플레이했었는데, 그때 당시에 이제 거기서 코치를 해주시는 분이 지금 그때 당시 C9 코치님이셨고, 현재 T1 감독님이 어텀 감독님이 코칭 해주시고 하셔가지고 클라우드9 테스트도 실제로 직접 한번 봤었었는데 떨어졌다가 계속 연락도 주고받고 하다가 그 전 대회에서 이제 전 CS:GO 프로 출신들이 많은 FA라는 팀을 상대로 좀 괜찮은 플레이도 보여줬었고, 그리고 제가 클라우드9으로 공식적으로 들어가기 전에 연습생으로 몇 주 있었었는데, 그때도 나쁘지 않게 활약을 한 덕분에 제가 클라우드9 소속으로 데뷔를 할 수 있었던 것 같아요.
So during the 4 matches that I played before I joined C9, I played under a team called Mad, and
Mm.
the coach at the time is actually the current T1's coach Autumn, who was also the coach
Oh,
for
okay.
Cloud9 Korea. Yeah. So I had a connection this way, and he tested me for C9 before actually, and I actually failed it. But I gained a bit of an attraction after playing against a free Asian team with a lot of Counter-Strike players.
Mm.
And after I joined the scene, I was kind of a trainee for a couple weeks, but I did very well, and I was able to debut under C9 for the first time.
Okay, yeah. Well, if you look back at that C9 roster as well, you had players like Barzy and Munchkin, who are obviously pretty big names in the likes of Overwatch. Do you feel like that is where you sort of learnt most getting into like these FPS games from players like that?
이제 그 시절에 클라우드9 코리아 팀원들을 보면은 오버워치에 좀 이름 있는 바치 선수나 뭐 먼치킨 선수들이 좀 있으셨는데 그런 선수들과 같이 게임을 하면서 좀 많은 것을 혹시 배웠다고 생각하시나요?
일단은 굉장히 많이 배웠다고 생각하고 일단 그 형들뿐만 아니라 코치님, 감독님 그리고 그 후에 들어온 제타 형도 다 이제 너무 좋은 프로페셔널한 마인드를 가지고 있던 형들이고 선수들이어서 일단 너무 어렸었어 가지고 제가 모르는 게 많았었는데 마인드적으로나 이제 게임 안에서나 게임 외적으로나 여러 가지 많이 알려준 형들이어서 어 그냥 게임 바깥으로도 많이 배웠다고 생각해서 진짜 많이 배운 것 같아요, 여러 가지로.
So I can definitely say I learned a lot during that time with Batsy and Munchkin. And I just want to say the coaching staff, the Zeta who came in much later, they
Mm.
all helped me out to become the player I am today. I was a very young player when I joined that team, and these guys all taught me the both in and out of the games of what to be a professional esports player.
Yeah, I'm sure some of them regret that now, I'm going to be honest. After you've beaten them a few times. But yeah, the team itself, it seemed to perform decently, but it always struggled against one team in particular, and that was Vision Strikers. At the time, did you feel almost a rivalry with this team, which is almost quite funny looking back now you've been with them so long?
그때 클라우드9은 언제나 좀 우수한 성적을 보여줬는데 항상 비전 스트라이커즈라는 팀으로 좀 많이 힘들어하는 모습을 보여줬습니다. 그 당시에 비전 스트라이커즈를 약간 라이벌 관계라고 생각하셨나요?
일단은 라이벌이라기보다는 저희가 밑에서 좀 따라가는 느낌의 팀이었었기 때문에 라이벌이라고 하긴 조금 그렇고 그래도 항상 이제 비전 스트라이커즈 만나면은 너무 아쉽게 마지막에 미끄러졌어 가지고 그런 게 기억에 제일 남는데 라이벌이라기보다는 항상 배울 게 많고 저희가 이기기 전까지는 항상 따라가야 된다는 팀이라고 생각했던 것 같아요.
I personally wouldn't say we were like any rivals of any kind. I didn't consider Vision Strikers as a rival. Uh, if anything, I saw Vision Strikers as a team to learn from back then because
Okay.
we wanted to beat them, sure, but we always slipped up at the end. But this was a team that had such a historic moments that it was a team to learn from at that point
Mm.
of my career.
I guess the follow up then is even when you were on Cloud9 or some of the other teams post Cloud9, did you at that time have the goal to join Vision Strikers, or were you just sort of like, okay, I can learn from them and then I'll eventually beat them?
그러면 그 당시에 약간 비전 스트라이커스 팀을 상대하면서 개인적으로 비전 스트라이커스 팀을 약간 조인하고 싶었던 마음이 있으셨는지 아니면 그냥 비전 스트라이커스를 상대하면서 좀 배우고 내 커리를 쌓아가겠다는 느낌이셨는지 좀 말씀해 주실 수 있을까요?
일단 그때 당시 비전 스트라이커즈가 좀 많이 탄탄했던 5명이 다 너무 탄탄했던 느낌이라 약간 그 팀을 들어가겠다라는 생각은 많이 못 했었던 것 같고 이렇게 너무 마음이 잘 맞는 5명이서 저 팀을 꼭 이겨서 우승하고 세계 대회 진출해서 세계 대회도 우승해 보자 이런 마인드를 많이 갖고 있었던 것 같아요.
So from that time, I saw Vision Strikers as a very tight knit group where like all
Mm.
5 players were just so good at the games that I couldn't really imagine replacing any one of them. So instead of saying that I wanted to join them, I always just wanted to defeat them and go on the world stage
Okay.
myself with my own current team at the time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I wanted to look back just before we talk about Vision Strikers DRX, which is most of your career in Valorant. When you were playing for some of the teams before, like I looked at your last match for Rio, like you managed to like lose a game while going 77 and 54. Was there like a moment in that team where you're like, okay, there's all the pressure is on me. I have to be this superstar or we're just not going to be able to win games? And was that pressure lifted when you did make the move?
이제 버즈 선수의 커리어를 좀 보면은 리오 컴퍼니라는 팀에 있었을 때 약간 메인 듀얼리스트 좀 하드 캐리하는 모습을 많이 보여주시면서 경기할 때마다 이제 자기가 캐리하겠다는 약간 부담감이 있으셨는지 그리고 이제 DRX에 오시면서 그 부담감이 좀 털어졌는지 그게 좀 궁금합니다.
애초에 일단 리오 컴퍼니 소속으로 뛸 때도 그런 부담감은 전혀 없었었고 저는 제가 잘했다기보단 5명이 다 잘해줘서 제가 너무 잘해줘 가지고 제가 이렇게 더 높은 너무 좋은 이니시에이터들도 있고 해서 너무 높은 킬댓을 기록할 수 있었다 생각했고 어 비전 스트라이커즈에 들어갔을 때는 뭔가 그런 부담감이 애초에 없었기 때문에 사라졌다는 느낌도 잘 못 느꼈었고 좀 새로운 도전 느낌이면서 어쨌든 탑 클래스에 있는 팀이다 보니까 여러 가지 많은 것들을 새로운 것들을 조금 우리랑 내가 그전에 했던 발로란트랑 어떤 다른 게 있었는지 배우고 싶다는 생각이 많이 들었던 것 같아요 그 당시에.
With Rio Company, I actually didn't have any pressure at any point with my time with them. I consider my quote unquote success with every single player that was on that team. My scoreline doesn't reflect my own skills, but everyone
Okay.
helped me get that score. Um, so when I joined Vintage Strikers, I didn't really have any pressure to lose. I didn't feel anything. If anything, I just wanted to learn and try new things with Vintage Strikers at that time.
Okay. So we can sort of get onto that. In early 2021, you replaced, well, Glow slash Zest, as both left the team at the same time after they failed to qualify for Iceland. What was it like getting that call up? Because you sort of said just now that your goal really was to beat them. You didn't expect them to sort of be making those changes. So when they did, that must have been huge.
이제 21년도에 비전 스트라이커즈가 마스터즈 레이캬비크에 진출을 실패하고 당시에 글로우 선수와 제스 선수가 팀에 나갔었습니다. 이제 비전 스트라이커즈에서 연락을 받으셨을 때 소감이 어떠셨나요? 특히 지금 말씀하시기로는 비전 스트라이커즈 팀은 이기고 싶었다는 마음이 있으셨는데 소감이 어떠셨나요?
일단은 뭔가 그때 당시에 대회 전체에서도 제가 스탯이 많이 높았어 가지고 어 '잘하면 연락이 올 수도 있겠다.'라고 생각은 했었는데 진짜로 오니까 뭔가 조금 신기했었고 조금 사실 조금 안 믿긴 것도 있었고 약간 많이 설렜던 그런 기억도 나는 동시에 이제 같이 플레이했던 형들한테 너무 살짝 좀 많이 미안한 감정도 조금 있었던 것 같아요 그때는.
My stat at the time before the call up was pretty high overall in the entire league, actually. So I
Mm.
did tell myself that I might have a chance, like they might call me.
Mm.
But when that actually happened, I actually couldn't believe it at that time. I was definitely in awe, but at the same time, I was excited to join, but also I felt very sorry to my past players in a bit because
Mm.
like I just joined this like huge team, whereas the other guys couldn't make it to the high end at that time.
Mm. Oh yeah, limited spots, and the two players that joined at that moment were you and Marco. So I want to know, looking back, at least now, that seems like two of the best signings, definitely in Pacific, but maybe in World of Valorant. Like you and Marco joining exactly at the same time. Could you tell straight away that like this team was different? This team was gonna be good.
당시 버즈 선수가 그 비전 스트라이커스에 들어오셨을 때 마코 선수와도 같이 동시에 들어오셨습니다. 지금 현재 시간에서 보면 발로란트 역사상 가장 임팩트 있는 사이닝이라고 볼 수 있을 것 같은데 들어오시면서 바로 비전 스트라이커스 강팀이 될 거라고 예상하셨나요?
일단은 무조건 우승할 거라 생각했었고 한국에서는 그걸 이제 증명하는 거는 스크림 결과라고 생각했는데 스크림이 진짜로 거의 무패를 할 정도로 패배가 없었고 선수들끼리 너무 이제 잘하다 보니까 이겨도 막 이제 점수 차이가 조금만 나는 걸로도 살짝 뭔가 불만이 있고 그랬었을 정도로 저희가 상당히 기대치도 높고 실제로 플레이 결과도 좋았어 가지고 무조건 우승할 거라 생각하고 있었어요.
I knew for a fact that when I joined the team with Mako, I knew we could win any Korean league at the time. There was no
Okay.
Pacific. I could tell because of scrims, actually. Our scrim record against any team was just unbelievable. It was just nonstop winning. It got to a point where we got a little pissed off if we gave up too many points, actually, not even about the scrim wins. So I knew for a fact that we were going to be a very good team back then.
Oh, okay. Well, as someone who was well, is a big fan of Counter Strike, Glow was one of the sort of few successful Counter Strike players who came from Korea. I'll be honest, there weren't a mass amount. Did you feel any pressure, like not only sort of replacing someone like that with mass amounts of experience, but also someone who then became your coach? So it's like you've taken one of the spots on the team for someone who's now going to be watching over your shoulder.
이제 개인적으로 제가 카운터 스트라이크의 큰 팬입니다. 특히 글로우 선수, 당시 글로우 선수님의 커리어를 저를 많이 알고 있었고, 그런 사람을 이제 대신하여 팀에 조인하게 되셨는데, 좀 많이 부담감을 느끼셨네요. 특히 그 글로우 선수가 코치님을 된다는 거 자체 포함해서.
막 그런 걸로는 많이 부담감은 없었던 것 같고, 일단은 들어갔을 때 이제 코치 감독님들이 이제 많이 믿음을 보여주셨었고, 또 실제로 스크림 결과도 좋았었기 때문에 막 엄청 부담감은 없었던 것 같고, 오히려 그런 대단한 선수였던 코치 감독님들에게 뭔가를 배울 수 있겠다, 내 부족한 걸 채울 수 있겠다라는 그런 기대감, 설렘이 조금 더 많았던 것 같아요, 그 당시에는.
I actually didn't feel much pressure when I replaced Glow, quote unquote. When I joined, the coaching staff just showed how much they believed in me, and I was very thankful for that. And we could just see from our scrims that we were going to do great. I was very happy to learn from Glow if anything, and that I was just excited to see what I could do with him.
Mm. Well, it kind of, again, leads me into the next question, which is, at the time, I think everybody sort of marveled at Vision Strikers. They looked at this team as like incredibly structured, innovative, almost that team to learn from. Could you sort of like feel the difference, as you said, from like the coaching stuff, from the players, that their mentality and just the way they wanted to almost play the game was different to any other team in Korea at the time?
이제 당시 비전 스트라이커즈는 좀 화려하고 생각하지도 못하는 팀 플레이를 좀 많이 무대 위에서 보여줬던 팀인데, 다른 팀들도 비전 스트라이커즈에 대해서 좀 많이 배우고 간다고 말을 많이 했습니다. 비전 스트라이커즈에 처음 입단하셨을 때 현재까지 있던 다른 팀들과 비교적으로 좀 다르다는 느낌이 드셨나요?
어 일단 다른 점은 있긴 했었는데, 어쨌든 연습량이라든지 아니면 뭐 그런 체계적인 거에서 많이 다르다고 생각을 했었었고, 일단은 탑 클래스를 찍어본 팀이어 가지고 조금, 근데 많이 다르다고는 느끼진 않았던 것 같아요. 그래도 그냥 어쨌든 발로란트는, 우리가 하던 발로란트는 다 똑같은 발로란트구나라는 생각도 들었었고, 그냥 이 팀의 전략들이 많이 다른 팀들과 다르게 좀 더 견고하고 꼼꼼해서 이런 성적을 낼 수 있었구나라는 거를 좀 느꼈었던 것 같아요.
Um, so a few things were different for sure, but I would say that it wasn't like dramatically different.
Okay.
If I want to go into a couple things, I knew that Fidget Trackers had a much longer scrim period and practice period. And to be honest, Valorant was just Valorant to me. And the only thing I could kind of point out was that Fidget Trackers' strategy was more airtight in comparison to other teams. And I could figure out that this is why and this is how they were able to keep that winning streak going.
Mm. Well, that's the thing. And what, in 2021 and 2022, once you join the team, they only ever lost one match regionally in Korea. That was to Onslayers. Do you feel like that was just that team being so much better, or do you feel like Korea as a whole was maybe a bit weaker than some of the other regions? Because that record is insane.
2021년부터 2022년 시즌까지 보면은 DRX 비전 스트라이커즈는 국내적으로 온슬레어스에게 1패배만 하였습니다. 전체적으로 봤을 때. 당시 한국의 발로란트가 타 지역과 비교적으로 좀 약하다고 생각하셨는지, 아니면 온슬레이어스가 그만큼 더 잘했는지, 아니면 DRX가 너무 압도적으로 잘했다고 생각하시는지 좀 설명 부탁드립니다.
저희가 조금 더 다른 팀들이랑 다르게 개념이 조금 더 많이 앞섰었던 것도 있고, 솔직히 말하면은 다른 한국 팀들도 뭔가 국제리그 다른 해외 팀이랑 비교했을 때 막 그렇게 경쟁력이 없었다고는 생각은 안 하지만, 일단 시드가 거의 대부분 대회에서 한 자리였었기 때문에 아무래도 사람들이 DRX 원맨 지역이다 약간 이런 어, 선입견을 많이 갖고 있는 것 같아요. 실제로 두 시드 대회였던 베를린에서 F4Q가 G2 상대로도 나쁘지 않은 결과를 보여줬었었는데 저는 그래가지고 DRX 원맨 지역보다는 조금 그냥 한 시드였어가지고 다른 팀이 보여줄 기회가 많이 없었다라고 생각합니다.
Um, in comparison to other teams, I think we just had more composure and basics down in compared to every other team. Other Koreans were still up there in terms of their competitiveness. It's just that I truly believe that a lot of teams weren't able to show up to the World because we only had one seed for international
That's
matches.
true.
Yes, if you look at Masters 3 Berlin, F4Q, which is just like a bunch of streamers team, they showed up against like Sentinels and G2 as well. So I truly believe that the competitive level wasn't that far off,
Okay.
but it was just that because we were a little bit more ahead than the other teams, it was kind of considered like DRX as a one team region kind of thing.
Well, everybody remembers Bunny, that's for sure. That's probably one of my favorite showings at an event ever. During this time, obviously, Vision Strikers kind of experimented a little bit with a 6-man roster. Now, I'll be honest, from our perspective, might have seemed a little bit weird as Luckier only really played Bind, or that was when he was subbed in. Was there actually a plan within the team to implement him more, or well, I'm not sure I should ask this bit, but was it sort of a plan to just hurt Newterm by stealing him away?
이제 당시 비전 스트라이커스 때 짧은 시간 동안 6인 로스를 좀 테스트를 해봤는데 좀 외부적으로 봤을 때 라키안 선수가 바인드란 맵에만 좀 출전을 했습니다. 버즈 선수가 보기에 이제 좀 라키아 선수가 그 팀에 무슨 계획으로 영입을 했는지 좀 알려줄 수 있으실지 궁금합니다.
일단은 레이캬비크 마스터즈에서 뛰어난 활약을 보여줬었고 저희 팀이 이제 중간에 들어오게 됐었는데 뭐 약간 뭐 누턴 전략을 빼오겠다 약간 이런 거는 절대 아니었고 그냥 시간이 조금 많이 저희가 하던 도중에 들어왔다 보니까 조금 시간도 많이 부족했었고 조금 적응하는데 조금 어려움을 느꼈었던 게 아닐까라는 생각을 합니다.
So everyone knows how great Lakia was at Masters Reykjavik, and that was one of the reasons why he caught our eye. I just want to make it absolutely clear that we didn't have any intention of hurting Newter or whatever that storyline is. I think Lakia couldn't be incorporated into our lineup very well because honestly, he just joined us out of the blue. No one expected it. No one expected it, not even us. But from the time frame that we had, it just didn't mesh very well at the time.
Okay. Well, another change that came through when the roster sort of went from Vision Strikers to being DRX Vision Strikers, Zest was brought back in for King. Now, King was someone that I think looking back at the roster was a bit of a fan favorite. It was someone I really enjoyed watching. So I'm curious from your perspective, what were the differences? What was Zest bringing that maybe King at the time couldn't?
이제 비전 스트라이커스가 DRX라는 팀을 좀 이제 변경되는 시점에서 킹 선수가 이제 팀을 나가면서 제스 선수가 돌아왔습니다. 버즈 선수가 보기에 제스 선수가 킹 선수보다 무엇을 더 잘했는지 간단하게 말씀 부탁드립니다.
일단 두 선수 다 엄청 뛰어난 선수라고 생각했고 일단은 좀 노련한 소바 플레이어도 필요했었다고 생각하고 그때는 그리고 좀 어쨌든 제스트 형이 조금 더 세컨콜이나 아니면은 뭐 메인 오더까지도 할 수 있는 사람이었기 때문에 뭔가 조금 더 운영적인 면에서 더 플러스가 될 거라고 생각을 했어가지고 그래서 리플레이스를 하지 않았나 싶습니다.
I just want to start off by saying they're both absolutely goated players. They're amazing players.
True.
At the time, I want to say that we needed a more talented solo player in our lineup. And additionally, a key thing that Zest was able to provide us was his ability to shot call in addition to stacks. So he was the secondary shot call to our lineup.
Mm.
And I believe that was crucial for us at the time.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, looking back overall at 2022, it does look like a great year for DRX. You had a couple of top 6 finishes, a top 3 at Champions. However, when you're sort of that close to maybe winning some of those games or winning the events, do you ever look back and go, we could have had that one. That could have been our event?
2022년 시즌을 좀 돌아보면은 DRX가 세계 6위를 2번 하였고 세계 3위를 챔피언스에서 하였습니다. 경기를 좀 보면은 좀 아쉽게 진 경기가 너무 많은데 버즈 선수는 그런 경기를 좀 되돌아보면서 좀 많이 아쉽다고 생각하시나요?
많이 아쉽고 뭔가 한 끗 차로 진 것도 많았어 가지고 그런 것 때문에 많이 아쉽다고는 생각하는데 그래도 그것조차도 실력이라고 생각하기 때문에 그런 실수들 없이 견고하게 잘해야 이런 거 없이 우승하고 하는 게 아닐까 싶습니다.
We lost a couple crucial games by just one single step, one single mistake.
Mm.
So, of course, as a player, yeah, I do wonder what could have been if I did X, Y, Z instead. But at the same time, those are also the skill gaps between great players and the best players. So, oh, sorry, great teams and best teams. So
Yeah.
I think it was just a learning step for us.
Okay. Well, now we get into 2023. Last year, the launch of the Pacific League, and obviously we sort of looked at this one and saw you guys now actually, rather than facing off against just Korea, you faced off against the whole of Pacific week in, week out. Were you guys going into that year still confident that like we're number one? It doesn't matter if it's Korea, it doesn't matter if it's the whole of Pacific. We're going to be that number one team.
2023년 시즌이 시작되면서 퍼시픽 리그가 탄생하면서 파트너 팀들이 이제 다 선정되었습니다. 이제는 한국 국내만의 경기가 아니라 이제 퍼시픽 전체가 다 같이 모이는 경기를 하는데 버즈 선수는 그래도 그 당시에 1위가 쉽게 될 거라고 생각하셨나요?
저는 당연히 저희가 퍼시픽 1등 할 거라고 예상하고 생각하고 있었었고 그만큼 팀 성적도 많이 좋았었기 때문에 네, 그냥 저는 무조건 우승할 거라 생각했습니다.
Entering 2023, even when looking at all the partner teams, I saw us as like no doubt that we were going to be the best team in the Pacific and take the number one title.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be honest. If he gave any other answer, I would have called him a liar. I think most people believed in DRX at that time. This was also when Foxy9 had joined, though, and this was one of the biggest sort of role swaps we saw from you, Buzz. Is that from this point you'd pretty much mostly played duelist, maybe the odd other agent here and there. What was it like sort of moving away from playing that role and Foxy taking it for a bit? And also, was this something that was a Buzz decision or more of a DRX/coach decision?
이제 폭시나인 선수가 이제 팀에 들어오면서 버즌 선수의 역할이 좀 많이 변경되었습니다. 이미 몇 번의 포지션 변경이 좀 있으셨지만 타격대에서 이제 그 넘어간 게 버즈 선수의 결정이었는지 아니면 팀의 전체적으로 합의 본 건지 좀 궁금합니다.
저는 개인적으로는 팀이 원하는 역할이면 뭐든 다 할 수 있다는 입장이었기 때문에 그 팀에서 필요한 거를 제가 하겠다는 느낌이었었고 그래서 제가 듀얼리스트를 내려놓고 다른 선수가 하게 된 그런 거입니다.
So I'm under the stance that I will do anything that my team needs me to do. So
Mm.
at the time, Foxy felt more comfortable with the duelist, so I just volunteered to go into the other position, and that was the end of it.
Okay, it makes sense, really. I didn't think there'd be a massive fight on our hands. Results throughout the season were definitely good, but I guess a way I could put it is maybe not DRX good for regionally, like a lot closer games at times versus teams I think many people expected you guys to beat quite easily. Did something feel a little different within the team this year? Because as I said, like the year before, regionally, I think, or even over the 2 years, you lost one match, and this time you lost a couple and had some very close games.
2024년 시즌 동안은 좀 우수한 성적을 보여줬지만 국내적으로 그래도 좀 옛날의 그 압도적인 모습은 아니었다고 생각합니다. 개인적으로 생각하셨을 때 뭐가 좀 달라진 게 있으셨나요?
일단은 많은 팀들이 조금 상향 평준화가 돼서 많이 올라온 것도 있지만 저희가 조금 많이 변화를 하는 과정에 있어서 조금 어, 성장통이라고 생각하고 있어가지고 뭐 그렇게 심각하게 받아들이고 있지는 않습니다.
So a lot of teams actually caught up to us at that point, and it was becoming like more leveled playing field for everyone. And I think during this time, at the same time, we were swapping in and out ourselves, like our strats and everything. So we were thinking of everything. It's kind of as a learning period at the time. So I didn't really think too much into it.
Okay. This is also the first year as well that I said it's gone from Korea to Pacific, but I think we still expected you guys to be number one. It was the first time that you sort of fell short, finishing in that second place. Was it a shock to you how good PaperX were over this last year? Because those couple of changes that they made turned them into an absolute world-beating team, and it definitely seemed like a lot of people sort of struggled to play against them.
이제 역사상 처음으로 DRX가 아시아 대회에서 1위를 놓치고 페이퍼렉스에게 이제 그 왕자리를 줬습니다. 이번 시즌 페이퍼렉스가 이렇게 잘할 거라고 예상하셨는지, 이렇게 선수 교환 몇 번 한 걸로 세계 최강 팀이 세계 최강급으로 된 팀이 예상하셨는지 궁금합니다.
일단은 피퍼렉스 팀 자체가 선수들 모두가 포텐셜이 매우 높은 선수들이라 생각하는데 그냥 많이 변화를 추구했었는데 그 변화가 잘 된 것 같고 그래서 이 정도일 거라고는 예상은 못했었지만 그래도 굉장히 잘하는 모습을 보여줬어가지고 너무 놀라웠었고 저희도 그런 거 보면서 많이 동기부여도 된 것 같아요.
I knew that PaperX had like a lot of players with great potentials. When the changes were made, I could see why they made it, but I didn't expect them to be this good right off the bat. And it was a little bit of a wake-up call for all of us at the same time.
Okay. Now, from an outside perspective, Zest obviously came back in for Foxy, and it was one of those decisions that, at least from behind the scenes, seemed like just a quick fix. Like, things aren't working the way we want to. Let's just slap some tape on it. Did it feel like that from within the team, that it was just like, okay, it's not working with him. Let's just bring back the guy who we know is consistent and know can do the job.
이제 외부적으로 봤을 때 DRX가 좀 위기에 있을 상태에서 항상 제스 선수를 좀 포크 선수에 대신해서 좀 데려왔습니다. 저희가 모르는 다른 이야기가 있는지 아니면 그냥 보이는 대로 DRX 우리가 위험하니까 제스 선수를 빨리 넣어야겠다, 이런 거였는지 좀 궁금합니다.
그냥 그 상황에 필요해서 넣었던 것 같습니다. 예.
I can't go into too much detail, but it was just the right call at the time.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. One of the things I then wanted to sort of ask a little bit more about that is it was a similar scenario in Tokyo. Is it somewhat that Foxy maybe at the time wasn't ready to be on like a big stage and be under those lights, under the pressure, and that he just had a little bit more to learn before he could sort of keep up with everybody else?
이제 도쿄에서 그저 질문과 좀 연결해서, 도쿄에서 이제 제스 선수가 갑자기 급하게 튀어냈는데, 버즈 선수가 생각하시기에는 폭신한 선수가 좀 아직 그 당시에 배울 점이 좀 많이 필요하다고 생각했는지 궁금합니다.
일단은 에임적으로는 포텐셜이 많은 선수지만 조금 저희랑 합을 맞추는 데는 좀 더 시간이 필요하다 생각했었던 것 같습니다.
I can say that his aim has great potential, but team side wise, especially incorporating into our strategy, he needed a little bit more time than we thought.
Okay. Well, we're going to start looking now. I'm sure one of the bits that people are sort of quite intrigued to learn a little bit more about. Not too long ago, it was announced that both Zest and RB have been moved to like the inactive side of the roster. Quite shocking for the fans. I don't know if you can give us a little bit of insight as to why this actually happened. I think especially RB, someone who I don't even think there was any mention that he wouldn't be in the team for this year. Obviously, Zest has gone in and out a few times, so maybe a bit less surprising.
이제 최근에 DRX에서 공식적으로 제스 선수와 RB 선수가 이넥티브 로스터로 변경되었다는 걸 발표했습니다. 팬들은 좀 많이 충격적이게 빠졌는데 좀 그 이유가 말씀해 주실 수 있는지 궁금합니다.
일단은 저번 시즌에 저희가 조금 그 저번보다는 조금 저조한 성적을 냈었기 때문에 변화가 필요하다고 생각했었고 그 변화에 맞춰서 그런 결정을 내리게 된 것 같습니다.
From my perspective, last season we didn't have the results that we wanted. We didn't grow as much as we wanted. So internally, we decided a change was necessary, and this is just simply how the roster came to be afterwards.
Okay. From the off-season events you played so far, obviously you've been playing with Flashback and Foxy. It definitely doesn't seem like the team is there just yet. It is, of course, the off-season, but can you sort of feel the difference, like good or bad, in terms of how the team would play in comparison to the old roster?
지금 최근에 오프시즌 경기를 봤을 때 플래시백 선수와 포크 선수가 같이 함께하는 경기를 보면은 예전의 DRX만큼의 그 압도적인 모습은 보여주지 못하고 있습니다. 개인적으로 보셨을 때 이제 좀 예전 팀과 비교하면 좀 많이 달라진 게 있으실까요?
일단은 그 예전 팀이랑 비교했을 때 저희 팀에서 많이 안 나오던 장면들이 많이 나오고 있다 생각하고 있고 좋은 쪽으로. 근데 이제 아무래도 그 오프시즌 대회들은 합을 오래 맞추지 않고 나갔던 대회들이었었기 때문에 그냥 경험 느낌으로 출전을 많이 했었던 것 같아요. 그래서 사실 저는 그 예전 로스터랑 비교했을 때 플러스가 더 많다고 생각하는 입장입니다.
Compared to the old roster, I think we were actually able to show you a lot more uh, a new DRX kind of vibes in a good way actually. And the tournaments that we participated during the off season were off season, and it was more for our players to learn from. In my personal opinion, I actually think that our changes are heading in a more good direction. So
Okay.
I'm more excited for the next season.
Sounds good. Well, that was sort of going to lead into my next one, was how much of the off season was experimenting. Because whenever I talk to Kang Yang off season events, obviously you'll know from knowing him quite well, he is a massive troll. So I never know if he's telling the truth or not. But he was like, no, we're just experimenting. There's no pressure on the players in the off season at all.
이제 DRX의 대표님과 많은 얘기를 나눴는데 오프 시즌은 선수들이 부담감 없이 할 수 있는 대회라 생각하며 좀 선수들의 경험을 쌓고 테스트할 수 있는 기간이라 생각합니다. 버즈 선수는 오프 시즌 기간 동안 이 테스트 약간 경험하는 기간이라고 생각하시나요? 만약에 한다면 얼마나 그만큼 쓰는지 궁금합니다.
일단은 당연히 경험하는 자리라고 생각하고 저희랑 비교를 했을 때 이제 플래시백 선수나 폭신하인 선수는 렌에서의 대회 경험 자체가 많이 없기 때문에 그래서 이런 경험 자체를 매우 중요하게 생각을 했었고 그런데 생각보다 나쁘지 않았다고 생각을 해요. 일단은 제가 오프시즌 대회 나가서 좋은 성적은 아니었지만 짧은 기간 안에 꽤 경쟁력 있는 팀들을 이겼었기 때문에 앞으로 더 기대가 되는 것 같습니다.
I definitely believe that the off season is meant for our players to like experience new things, try new things, and I think this was a great time to implement Flashback and Foxy Night into the LAN experience because they don't have a lot of on-stage experience. I believe that, I mean, the results weren't great, obviously, but I truly think that they actually showed up a lot in these games. That I could see their growth in my eyes, so I'm actually very excited.
Well, I think one of the good things, at least from my experience at Red Boys, I got to see Buzz look very good individually, but I also got to hear Buzz's beautiful singing voice do some karaoke later on. I don't know if he's going to like me saying that, but Buzz can sing, for anybody wondering.
I cannot sing. No.
He definitely can. Either way, from playing with Flashback, like he is someone that obviously we've seen sort of really sort of jump up from the sort of academy straight into the team. I want to know what you can tell me about him as a player and what we can expect for him going into next season, because he looks talented, but as said, there's talented and then there's being on DRX.
이제 플래시백 선수와 좀 많이 봤는데 정말 잘하는 선수인 것 같고 하지만 DRX급인지는 아직 잘 모르겠습니다. 혹시 플래시백 선수에 좀 관하여 좀 말씀해 주실 수 있을까요?
일단은 당연히 에임적으로는 그 어떤 선수랑 비교했을 때 비교를 하지 못할 정도로 포텐셜이 높은 선수고 일단은 첫 대회였던 경우랑 너무 이제 신인 선수인데 그것보다 너무 큰 랜 대회를 나갔어 가지고 여러 가지 긴장이나 심리적인 요소들 때문에 100% 퍼포먼스를 못 보여줬을 거라고 저는 생각하거든요. 그래서 저는 무조건 저희 팀에서는 무조건 플러스인 선수라고 생각하지만 이번 대회에서는 아직까지 100%는 못 보여줬다고 생각하기 때문에 앞으로를 더 기대해 주시면 좋을 것 같아요.
Flashback, I can definitely say that his aim is absolutely crisp. It's amazing. He has a very good potential as a young player. From his first game to now, I could actually see that he hasn't experienced a lot of experiences in on stage yet. So I
Mm.
could tell that he was a little bit more nervous than how he would normally play from, at home actually. So I'm very excited for the future because I know his potential and that this is just gonna come out more naturally as he gains his experiences.
Okay. Well, it's similarly talking about Foxy. We mentioned earlier that maybe he wasn't quite ready for like the biggest stages. Do you think that he's ready now? And also, can also mention a little bit about how from off-season games, it seems like you're holding on to the duelist this time, and he's going to be taking up some other roles. Is that something you also believe he has the capability to do?
이제 두 가지 질문 한 번에 묻겠습니다. 작년에 비교하자면 폭신하인 선수가 아직 큰 무대에선 좀 준비가 덜 됐다고 생각하는데 지금 현재 상태에선 좀 준비됐다고 생각하시나요? 그리고 지금 오프시즌을 보면은 폭신하인 선수가 타격대를 안 하고 있는데 그 뜻은 버즈 선수가 계속 타격대를 하실 건지 궁금합니다.
일단은 그 포지션 관련해서는 저는 뭐 여러분들의 기대감을 위해서 뭐 딱히 완전 100% 오픈할 수는 없고 비밀로 해야 될 것 같고요. 그리고 폭신하인 선수 같은 경우는 세계 대회에서 저는 경쟁력이 충분히 있는 선수라고 생각을 하고 지금 저희 팀에 있는 동안 너무 많이 발전을 했다 생각하기 때문에 폭신하인 선수도 어떤 역할을 하듯 잘 해줄 거라고 생각하고 있습니다.
I'll go backwards. Position wise, I'll keep it short. I can't say who will play what. I'm gonna leave that up to your definition.
Okay.
Foxy 9, I think that he has the talent to be on the global stage with everyone else. He has that potential.
Okay.
From his first game until now, I can see how much he grew. So right now, I believe he is going to be ready.
All right, sweet. Well, just a little touch on obviously RB and Zest for you. They've been on the team since 2020. You've played with them for a couple of years. Firstly, do you think it's going to take time to sort of get to the level you were with those players? But also, just for you personally, is it difficult? Like, obviously, you've got to know these players so well. You spent probably every day with them for a very long time. What's it like seeing those players now, like, well, inactive, like gone from the team?
이제 알비와 제스 선수는 2020년부터 팀과 함께 하시면서 버즈 선수도 몇 년간 같이 플레이를 하셨는데 두 선수가 팀에 약간 인액티브 활동을 하시면서 그 실력까지 다시 끌어오는데 시간이 걸릴 건지 그리고 이렇게 친한 선수가 나가게 됐는데 그 개인적으로 좀 아쉬움이나 어떤 심정이 있는지 궁금합니다.
일단은 개인적으로는 그 형들이랑 같이 국제 대회에서 우승을 조금 못 해본 게 너무 아쉽다는 생각이 제일 많이 들고요. 그리고 다들 앞으로 너무 잘 됐으면 좋겠다라는 생각밖에 없고. 근데 다 너무 뛰어난 선수고 형들이기 때문에 저는 솔직히 많이 걱정은 안 하고 있습니다.
그 실력까지 현재 DRX가 그 실력까지 올리는데 시간이 걸릴 거라 생각하시나요?
어 시즌 초반까지는 조금 두고 봐야 될 것 같다라고는 생각하고 있어요.
Um, RV and Zest are both great players, and I'm just very sad that I couldn't lift a international title with them. I
Mm.
wish them the best of luck heading into the future. But I'm absolutely not worried about their careers because they're amazing players, so they'll find a new home soon. I think that to get to that level again, I do admit that I think it will take a little bit of time at the very front of the season, but we will get there no matter what.
All right. Well, looking at Pacific then, it is looking like maybe, and definitely in comparison to last year, a much more competitive Pacific. T1 with a rebuild, Bleed coming in with bringing in El Diablo, RRQ having some pretty solid upgrades as well. You said that it might be a little bit of a slow start to the season. Do you still believe that DRX are going to be in that sort of top 2, top 1 within the league this season?
이제 현재 새로운 퍼시픽 시즌을 들어가면서 T1, 블리드, RRQ 등등 여러 팀들이 좀 업그레이드된 모습이 좀 많이 보입니다. 방금 말씀하셨을 때 DRX가 다시 실력을 올리는데 시간이 살짝 걸릴 수도 있다고 말씀하셨는데 궁극적으로 DRX가 아직 아시아에서 탑 1위, 2위 팀이 될 거라고 생각하시나요?
일단은 저희가 막 엄청 많이 합을 맞춘 단계는 아니어서 그때 어떻게 될진 모르겠지만 어 일단 확실한 거는 저희가 챔스까지 제일 마지막까지 갔을 때는 제일 높은 순위에 있는 퍼시픽 팀 중 하나가 될 거라고 저는 믿어 의심치 않고 있습니다.
As I said, we're still in the process of learning together right now. I can't confidently say that we're the best variation of ourselves yet. I just want to look at the big picture. I will say that by the end of Champions, we will be one of the top teams in the Pacific by then.
Okay. Well, the next question might not make massive amounts of sense then, but obviously PaperX last year managed to steal the crown of Pacific, even though technically it was the first crown. But is there a goal of this year to steal it back, or as you said, is it? Have you got bigger fish to fry? Are you aiming higher?
페이퍼렉스가 작년에 DRX를 넘어뜨리고 아시아에서 1위인 그 퍼시픽 챔피언이 되었는데 올해는 그 타이틀을 다시 가져오실 의향이 있으신지 그 열정이 있으신지 궁금합니다.
일단은 퍼시픽 우승도 너무 하고 싶고 퍼시픽 우승을 못하면 마스터나 챔스에서 우승해도 된다는 마인드이기 때문에 솔직히 퍼시픽보다는 챔스 우승이 더 하고 싶어요. 그냥 모든 선수들이 다 똑같듯이 저희는 챔스를 제일 높게 보고 연습을 하고 있습니다.
We don't just want to be the Pacific champions. We want to be the champions.
That's fair.
Obviously, I want to win Pacific. That's not a question. But if we can't win that, I'm under the impression that we just have to win an international title instead. Then, so
okay.
yeah, there are bigger fish to fry. But yes, I do want to win Pacific.
Okay. Well, my second to last question. Over the past 3 years, DRX have been one of the most consistent teams in the entirety of the VCT. Are these two changes, or is this decision proof that DRX's goals are higher than being consistent, and the goal is to win?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I couldn't hear you.
So over the last 3 years, DRX have been known as one of the most consistent teams in the whole VCT. Are these roster changes proof that their goals are higher, that they want to win trophies, and that is the only goal?
이제 최근 3년 동안 DRX와 비전 스트라이커즈 보면은 그 공식 팀들 중에서 정말 항상 성적이 떨어지지 않고 비슷하게 그 꾸준히 진행했던 팀이라고 생각합니다. 이렇게 로스터 변경되는 게 이제 팀의 골이 더 높은 곳으로 변경되었다고 하는 그 프루프라고 생각하시나요?
저는 당연히 저희가 더 높게 성적을 낼 거라고 확신하고 있고 이런 변화들이 저는 좋다고 생각하기 때문에 좋은 것 같습니다.
I can simply put it as like these are the steps in the right direction to a higher place for us.
Okay. So all I want to do to finish is for the DRX fans at home, be it from Korea or be it from around the world, what has Buzz got to say about 2024? What are DRX going to achieve? What can the fans expect to see from you going into the Pacific season next month?
이제 세계 전체에 있는 DRX 팬들을 위해 2024년의 DRX에 관한 한마디를 좀 부탁드리겠습니다.
일단은 저희가 여러 가지로 많이 변화를 하고 있기 때문에 24년은 진짜 더 많이 기대해 주셔도 될 것 같고 저는 저뿐만 아니라 저희 구단 팀 모두 많이 기대하고 있는 시즌이기 때문에 한 번만 더? 일단 많이 응원해 주시면 더 감사할 것 같습니다.
챔피언스 우승까지 다 계획하시고 있나요?
무조건입니다.
Okay. So as you guys all know, the off season, a lot of things happen to DRX right now. We changed a lot, but please keep looking out for us. It's a step in the right direction, I believe. Not just by myself, but all of us, all the staff, everyone knows that we want to win a championship. So our ultimate goal is to win champions 2024. So please keep supporting us.
Oh, guys, Buzz, Miru, thank you very, very much, both of you, for taking the time out of your day to do this interview. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the season. And for everybody at home, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. We'll see you again next time. Bye.
Thank you.
바이바이.
Bye.